Hello, and welcome to That Nerd Thing, where we uncover the magical impact that fandoms have on our lives. I'm Morgan, and as I've been entering this creative world on social media, like so many others, I have been getting sucked into Booktok and Bookstagram. And it has consumed me in a way that has made reading so much more fun because of just the diverse amount and types of books that you can find on there. And it's so amazing to also feel like when you're reading that there's a community out there with you that's reading as well. It really has been so life-changing for me to hear about so many other people reading books and hearing about their experiences. So today, I am beyond excited that I get to talk with not only one of my favorite book talkers, but also, which I just found out in my research, a current nominee for Literary Activist of the Year for the AAMBC Literary Awards, Allissa, otherwise known as shebereadinthembooks. Hey, I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm like geeking out right now.
Oh my God. Well, this is the place to do it. So congratulations on your nomination. I was like, wow, I'm so glad she said yes to be on my podcast.
And the funny thing is, I didn't even realize I was nominated. There was so much discourse about all the nominations that I didn't realize that I was part of it. And then somebody was like, girl, isn't that your name? And I was like, oh, I am She Be Reading them books. That's me. Oh, cool. So yeah, it's so surreal because it's like people see me and they're like, oh, she's a literary activist. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, I just like yapping about books. But like people out there are like, oh no, she's doing some work. And it just, I don't know, it just feels really cool. It feels really good.
And you're just being yourself, which I think is what's even more amazing. You're being yourself and you're being so influential as well.
I really don't know any other way to be. Like anybody in my family could tell you I've been this same way about just like talking about random things for the longest time. So it was like, oh, if I'm just going to talk to people who don't know what I'm talking about, let me just talk to a community. And then now I'll finally have somebody who knows what I'm talking about. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I just remember when I was growing up, like if I were to speak about my books, it would be with people like the few people that I knew in person who were reading the same books. And now there's just this whole online community.
I felt seen in a way. I don't think I've really felt like as a reader before, especially because I read so much sci-fi and fantasy. And growing up, it was more like romance or like dystopian type. And so now that I have this community, it's like, oh my gosh, I never would have dreamed that there are so many people who are into the same type of things that I am. Like, oh my gosh, it's so fun.
Yeah. I was going through a lot of your videos because I like to prep a bit before I do these podcasts. And you mentioned a book. Oh, I thought I wrote it down. I had to have written it down somewhere. I have it somewhere. But you mentioned here it is. Principal Moments. You said if you like time travel and sci-fi, this is a book for you. And I was like, ooh, I need to write that down because I love time travel.
Yes, it is. And I mean, it's the cover art. I honestly, if I love a cover art, I'm going to buy the book. And so when I saw like a black sci-fi story, space travel, kind of Doctor Who-ish vibes, I was like, oh, that sounds like all I need in my life.
Oh, I'm so excited to read it. Are you ready to jump into your nerdy identity?
I'm finally ready to share my nerdy side with the world.
Oh my God. It's an honor to have you here. What is the first thing that you were nerdy about?
I would say the first thing I can remember like really geeking out about is SpongeBob. And when I say geeking out, there's one thing to be like, okay, this is a cool show or whatever. I'll enjoy it. But like when I say geeking out, I had a SpongeBob themed birthday cake for 4 years in a row.
I love that.
That and like Little Rascals. I don't know what it is about those two shows, but they became my personality until I was at least like 10 or 11.
Oh my God. I love that. I love SpongeBob. I have some family members that are going to listen to this and be like, oh my God, I love her because they still love SpongeBob.
Oh, I still do. And as a teacher too, like if we have like downtime, we're watching SpongeBob. Like you're just going to have to learn to like it because you have me as a teacher.
So 4 years in a row?
4 years in a row, it had like a SpongeBob Slinky and a Patrick Slinky. And I would be like so uppity about it. I'm like, I'm going to take the SpongeBob Slinky and I'm going to give the Patrick Slinky to like one of my favorite friends of the year or something. I don't know. It was like this weird thing that I would do, but like 4 years in a row, that's what it was.
Oh, that's great. Who's your favorite character?
Ooh, my favorite SpongeBob character? I feel like probably Patrick. And I say that
Yeah.
because Patrick has such, even though Patrick really is like floundering around, he doesn't really know what he's doing half the time. He does it with such confidence. And I feel like my entire existence has been fake it till you make it. So,
I know, right?
I feel like I resonate a lot with him.
Yeah, I love him too.
He's pretty fire.
What is your favorite nerdy thing?
Books. Reading. This is why my eyesight is so bad, because I ruined it by reading. Like, I really don't remember a time in my life where like books weren't a part of who I was. I read chapter books from a really early age. And like in elementary school, I read my school's entire library in 3rd and 4th grade just so I could access the 5th grade books because they wouldn't let me because I was too young. And so I was like, okay, well, if I read every other book, you're going to have to let me read those books because there's nothing else. And they said, okay. And I said, bet. And so I did it.
That's amazing. And, yeah, I love your background. So for everybody who's listening, be sure to go check out Allissa on YouTube because her background is just beautiful, gorgeous.
It's so funny because I think I shared a few months back, like on my Instagram, of where my like book collection started. Of just like at the time I had like 30 books and it felt like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of books. And now I think I'm around like almost 400, which is insane. But I don't know, she's pretty, so.
Gorgeous. It's so funny you bring up the eyesight. So I like to get books from the library because little cost effective.
Yes.
So one of the books for my book club, it was coming up and it wasn't available, but the large print version was. So I got it and oh my gosh, that was so nice on my eyes. I just felt like I was able to read and like my eyes weren't straining. I didn't realize how much my eyes were straining before. So definitely recommend those large print books.
And I'm gonna have to check that out because I will. And see, it's not necessarily the text. I have a really bad habit of reading mostly at night and with very little light. So when my eyesight goes trash, I'm like, maybe I should.
What do you expect?
Yeah, I did it to myself.
Me too. Yeah, I remember reading all the time as a kid, and my dad would be like, "You can't read in the dark; you'll ruin your eyes." And I'm like, "I'm fine."
And now here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
with these glasses on.
What are you currently nerdy about?
Currently, I would say the Black authored sci-fi and fantasy. I think I talked about this kind of recently on TikTok about how I grew up with fantasy looking one way, like, you know, she who must not be named. I don't like saying her name too much because, you know,
I call her the author.
Oh, the author. Yeah, the author. But at the time, that was like, what was it for fantasy pretty much? But it spearheaded me into like where I am now. And now I can be like, yeah, I read her, don't like her, cool. But it wasn't until I got to college when I saw like my first Black authored sci-fi book on the shelves, or a fantasy book on the shelves. And I was like, is that a Black girl? It's like, she kind of looks like me. And it was Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi. And I was like, oh, this is about to make me spiral, because there had been like 5 or 6 years that I hadn't touched a book really. One, I was in college. And then two, it was just like, nothing is piquing my interest. And then I read that and I was like, oh yeah, this just started something. So then from there, it just like steamrolled, and me trying to find every single like Black authored fantasy book I could ever find. Yeah, so currently geeking out about that because I don't know, it just hits different.
People underestimate how important it is for you to feel represented in media.
Yeah.
So outside of the podcast, I'm a therapist, and I can't tell you how much that makes a difference for people to feel like they're consuming things where they feel represented, like they want to see themselves in these characters.
It's so healing, because it's like when I was reading books growing up from the author or like Percy Jackson or any of those, there was never a character that was described as having brown or dark skin or having curly, kinky hair. And so to read books where it's like, not only can I see myself in the characters, but even just the way, I feel like there's a way that there's a deeper, like there's a depth to those stories as well, because it's coming from real lived experiences. It's not coming from, you know, something that might have been taken from a different group of people or culture or whatever. Like, it's coming from people's just day-to-day lives, and they've put it into this fantasy world. It makes it feel just that much more like powerful.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to want to get a little deeper into talking about this with you, just like the representation and diversity when it comes to TikTok and social media and all of that, and like books, because I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And it's something I've been noticing on this podcast as well that I'm trying to get ahead of.
Unfortunately, it's something that I don't think enough people are taking seriously, like thinking about how you can diversify the media you're intaking. But it's something that has such a like ridiculous impact, like on so many people, from readers to authors to, I mean, people in general.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. So I'll have some questions about that in a few minutes. What is the most underrated nerdy thing about you?
Underrated. I would say the thing that might be most underrated, like, I like listening to podcasts, but not like those, not like the bro heavy podcasts. NPR is my jam. Like, I didn't grow up really listening to the radio. My mom had NPR when we were in the car. So like talk radio is, I'm just so used to it. And so NPR has this like segment called the TED Radio Hour, where it'll be like a overall theme, and then they'll bring in 4 very, very different people that examine that theme from different like perspectives and angles and fields and stuff. And it is like, I'm like a kid in the candy store, like, yes, tell me more. It is so fun to me.
That's great. So you've been listening to that since you were a kid?
I've been listening to NPR since I was a kid. I think when did TED Radio Hour come out? Maybe like 2015. I'm not sure when Guy Raz started that segment, but I listen to it like at least 3 times a week. It's like on repeat in my house.
No. Do you listen to podcasts besides that?
I listen to a few here and there. There's one called like How We Built This. These are all like subsidiaries of NPR. I was a psychology major in college, so anything that has to do with like podcasts with like how the brain works, how we interact, social change, like anything like that, I'm like, I love this. This is like my 4 years of struggle like come to fruition in these
I understand.
So that, or I'm really into like nature shows, and I hate the outside. I hate the outside so bad. I have really bad allergies. I'm afraid of bugs, but I will watch like Naked and Afraid all day, every day. And I don't know why. I'm like, I could build that fire better than you. No, and I've never built a fire a day in my life. But I will sit there and like judge them. Like, I could have built that shelter in a day. Why is it taking y'all so long? I know it's day 14 with no food, but get it together.
I know. What is the most random nerdy thing about you?
At my grown age, I'm still pretty obsessed with Pokémon.
Ooh, I've had so many people on the show who still are.
Really? That makes you feel not alone.
Definitely not alone.
I'll have kids that'll bring Pokemon cards to like school, especially after school, because I have a lot of smaller kids there. And they'll bring Pokemon cards, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have a double hollow Charizard? And they're looking at me like, how do you know that? And I'm like, I used to be the kid with a bunch of Pokemon cards, and I never showed them to anybody because it was like, I don't know, at the time it was like really weird to be nerdy about things. So I just kept them in like this old pencil case in my room. But like, I still, every time a new Pokemon game comes out, like I'm playing, what's the one currently? It's called like Scarlet and Violet, something like that. The Violet one. I'm like currently playing right now on my Switch. Yeah, I don't know if that obsession will ever go away.
You're definitely not alone. There's so many people who are still into that. And I'm so glad that you shared that, especially because you felt like you couldn't share it as a kid. So now you're sharing it with the podcast listeners.
I feel like I've embraced being just really open about things that I like and not caring if people judge me for it. But as a kid, it's like, if you don't like what everybody else likes, it's like this huge deal. And so I would just keep some of that stuff to myself, because I'm like, I don't need to be judged today because I like Pikachu.
So that's kind of a perfect transition into talking about your journey into fandom, because you are very open and yourself on social media now. So what has this journey into fandom been like for you?
It's been interesting. I would say that a lot of like my preteen teen years were spent having to mold myself in different spaces. So there was like a point in my life where I just like, if you asked like, who is Allissa, I'd be like, I don't really know, because it would change. I was the captain of the step team, and then I transitioned to a predominantly white high school, but then I was on the debate team. So there was a lot of like code switching that had to happen. There was a lot of things that I really struggled with internally. And so it wasn't really until I got to my senior year of college that I was comfortable enough. Like, I had figured out who I was and the things that interested me genuinely, and that weren't just like for show or for play. And then last year, a lot of my friends started being like, hey, you should really start like sharing these things with other people. And I'm thinking, who's going to listen to me talk about books all day? Like, I don't think I'm that interesting. But then one day I just picked up my camera and I was like, okay, this is going to be awkward as all get out, because I also hate the sound of my own voice. I'm like, we're just going to record it. And then I recorded it, I posted it, and I just haven't stopped yet.
Yeah. I always like to look back to try to find the first video that looks like, you know, went viral. And so I did that earlier, and I saw it was basically you saying like, hey, there's Black fantasy out there. There's Black literature out there. Read it, support it. And you were talking about like the publishing companies and all of that. I was like, this is amazing.
Like I know exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like that video, I feel it was like the first time I had somebody like say, why does race matter when it comes to books or comes to authors? And I feel like that was the first time like I had really articulated how much, like, even though I had created my page to say like, here's all these amazing like Black authored fantasy books that we don't know about. I think that was the first time I had like sat and really dealt with, what does that mean for me to be trying to introduce diverse reading to people? That video still cracks me up to this day. Oh my gosh, I feel like I've grown so much since then.
I always like to go back to the beginning and then watch recent videos and just think about it before I have somebody on. But I think your stuff is amazing. So since I am sort of like newer to the social media world, I've also recently discovered that Black Book Talk is a very different sort of environment than just book talk.
Yes.
Do you want to share a little bit more about that?
It is. You'll hear people on BookTalk talking about how BookTalk is like an onion, and how if you first hop on BookTalk, like the algorithm is first trying to get to you, it's going to show you the same 5 people, the same 5 authors, the same 5 books. And so when you get down to reading more diversely, maybe you've like searched more, now you've entered like diverse book talk and then Black book talk. And Black book talk is such a fun place because it's really just a bunch of like adult nerds who are collectively geeking out about books, about Black authored books or BIPOC authored books. And we understand the impact that has on people in our community and on us. And so sometimes it's like a little difficult because people will come to us with all this negativity about why does it matter what, and it's like, but there's a reason you're asking those questions, because it wouldn't matter to you if you've always been the narrative, that you've never had to grapple with what it feels like to not be included. And so what I love about Black Book Talk is everybody that I can like, that I'm thinking of like a whole bunch of names right now, who is on Black Book Talk are people who are championing for diversity in whatever subgenre that they read, whether it's romance or sci-fi or horror or like anything. It's all like, how can we make and help push out these authors that are not as heard of as the author or the other 2 that get talked about a ridiculous amount.
Yeah, I love that your message is 2024 is the year we diversify our bookshelves and expand our library. And I think that's such a great point, because you're right. It is the same books that I'm seeing over and over again. And I want to read more than that. And it's hard to balance reading and being part of a fandom and not wanting to support authors that don't necessarily reflect my own values and beliefs.
And you know what? I feel like that's really interesting, because I feel like that's where some people aren't able to see the impact that has. Like, just because a certain author has a fandom around them doesn't mean that you have to be a part of that fandom, because there are so many other, and I get really fired up about this because for me, it's impossible for me to separate who an author is from their book. I don't have a lot of time to just read whatever. So I have to be really intentional about where I'm putting my money at or what time I'm giving to someone or an author. And so I'm like, oh, if an author said this really horrible thing about my community, why would I read that book? I think it makes people who are jumping into like book talk kind of nervous, because they're like, okay, well, if these aren't what I should be reading, what should I be reading? And so it creates this like interesting kind of, I don't know if the word is dissonance or like it's just a really interesting dynamic that happens sometimes when people like first enter into the book talk space.
Yeah. You know, I actually wasn't really even on Book Talk until I really started this podcast. My algorithm was a bunch of other funny things. I took a break from reading for quite some time, and so I got back into it, and that's when I've been slowly exposed. I'm like, okay, wow, there's a lot more going on here. It's also something that I've been really concerned with starting my podcast is I really don't want to be only showcasing white creators. Yeah. I don't want to do that. I do recognize it is important to feel represented in whatever space you're in. And so that is something I'm trying to do with my podcast as well. Like, I want to showcase people on my show who I feel like don't necessarily get showcased on podcasts.
Boom. And so it seems like we're doing very similar work of like, who can we uplift that is sometimes kept in the shadows? Because, and I say this with my whole chest, any book that I have read by a BIPOC person, a white author book is nowhere near touching. And I will say that, I will stand 10 toes down on that. And that's because when you are operating and writing and coming from a place of trying to have your untold story told from your own experiences, I think it just adds so much more power to what you're saying. I think it adds so much more depth to what your purpose is. because you come into that understanding. There haven't been a lot like me. Like I think it's only what, about 10% of books that get published are by BIPOC people. And that's the entirety of what's encompassing what it means to be BIPOC. So somebody has to do the work of showcasing those 10% so that they can rival with the 90% that we're trying to fight through. And even as a book talker, it gets hard sometimes because there's probably numbers I will never be able to reach. That's just a fact. And that's because I look a certain way, I talk a certain way, I talk about books a certain way, and I talk about certain type of books a certain type of way. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter much to me because I know what purpose I'm living in the work that I am doing for the community that I have built. And so, yeah, I just think that's really cool that that's something you're also doing with this podcast.
I'm trying. It also kind of started where I was like, I want to elevate the voices of nerds. And then I was like, okay, but I need to make sure it's not just like these typical bro-y podcasts.
And that's the thing. I feel like a lot of times people hear nerd and they automatically think of some weird, like, geeky guy who, like, lives in his mom's basement and, like, hasn't showered in 3 weeks. And it's like, nerds can be bad bitches too. You know, like, yes. It is oftentimes to me, like, the people who are, like, hair's done, nails done, everything did, cute from head to toe, who will, like, come out the woodwork with, like, one of the nerdiest things. Like, oh, yeah, I play, like, Minecraft on the weekends. And it's like, what? So, yeah, I think, nerds definitely exist in all spaces and forms and levels of bad bitch. So,
oh, yeah, I think nerds are super cool.
Yeah.
I think bad bitches. So, what is it like for you to have fans?
It's awkward. It's honestly really, it feels very like imposter syndrome-y. And even though I am my authentic self in this space, it just feels so far removed from like my day to day that like when people are like, oh, I just watched your TikTok, I'm like, why? Ew. Like it throws me off because I'm like, for some reason the online to real life, the line is like a hard line. And I don't know why my brain hasn't yet made the switch of like, yeah, girl, people in real life, these are real life people that are watching you. Like, I remember the first time I had somebody come up to me, I was like so freaked out. I'm from Missouri, but I was in Atlanta for a book signing with JL, the author of House of Marion, and Terry J. Belton Walker, the author of Blood Debts. And somebody came up to me and was like, you look really familiar. And I'm thinking, I'm in Atlanta. Why would I look familiar to anybody in Atlanta? This is many states like away. And they were like, are you She Be Reading the Books? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you post videos, right? And I was like, oh yeah, that is a thing I did.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was so surreal that like people not only see me, but they watch me enough to like, if I'm out in the wild, they'll be like, oh, that's you. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that is me.
What about when you first went viral? Was there just like one video that kind of skyrocketed your followers or views that you were just like, oh my gosh, what's happening?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I went viral, I was panicking. It was a video I did and the sound, because you know, like a lot of people like dub a sound, but like use it for their own purpose. And I feel like it was from an episode of Family Guy where it's, oh my gosh, have you never heard of Taylor Swift?
Yes. I was watching that one. Yeah, that's and I remember.
And I dubbed it, oh my gosh, you've never heard of Black fantasy books?
Yes.
And I remember posting that, not thinking anything of it, because I'm still in the mindset of, I'm just posting to post. I'm posting to just have fun with this. And I still do. And it still freaks me out to this day, to be honest. And I remember looking at my phone and I was like, because it hits the, like, you know, TikTok will hit the 99 plus. And I had never seen that 99 plus before. And I was like, what's happening? What's happening? And then I start seeing like all these followers come in and all these likes. And I'm like calling my mom, I'm calling my sisters. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I was excited, but it came with this nervousness of like, oh shoot, am I going to be able to maintain this? Am I going to be able to like keep people's interest or be able to like continue reading books that people want to hear about? Or are people just going to follow me this one time and then unfollow me tomorrow? Not knowing like how any of this works, because when I started BookTalk, I was still new to BookTalk, like in general as a space, and it freaked me out. I was like shaking so bad. And then from there, it was like, okay, so something's here. Like people want to hear about this, so we're gonna keep talking about it. And yeah, even to this day when videos go viral, I'm like, and it's the most random stuff that goes viral. It's not the stuff that you put in. It's not the one that takes you 2 million takes to like redo over and over again. It's the stuff that you do in like 10 seconds that people like latch on to. And it's like, why that video? but I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, and your videos are really good. I'm just like watching them. I'm like, when am I going to have time to read all of these books? There's so many good ones that you talk about. And it's right up my alley too, especially with the sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, it's like my favorite comments. I try to like not read comments too much because I feel like it's really easy to get caught up in like people's opinions about you, even though you're just sharing the thing that you like. But my favorite ones that I get are ones who are like, oh my gosh, I've read this book that you recommended and you did not lie. This was so good. Or you've made my TBR and it's going to be never ending because of you. And I'm like, yes.
For real.
Yes, good. Because I mean, too, if people are adding books to like Goodreads or their story graphs, all that data goes back to publishers to say, hey, there's a market for these books. Let's make sure we keep this author on for a second book, a third book, a fourth book.
I didn't know that. Really?
Because what happens sometimes, a lot of times, especially with BIPOC authors, is as a BIPOC author, you're already fighting a white-dominated space. So it's really hard to get your name out there to get as big as some of these folks who have been in the game for 10 plus years because those were the only people publishers would pick up. It'll be like a double entendre where publishers are like, oh, well, no one's hyped about this book. But it's like, people are hyped. They're just, the mass of people who are hyped may just not be at the level of like these others just because people have to discover these people. And so when you add authors and their books to like Goodreads and Storygraphs, publishers are able to be like, oh, this many people are requesting this book, are putting it on their shelves even before it hits the shelves. Okay, maybe this might be a person we can pick up to do series. Because there are some where it's like you might have 2 books and then you never get the third and you're just sitting there like, where's the third book?
It's torture.
Yeah, and so it really helps authors out a ton when people are requesting their books, adding them to cart, pre-ordering books because it shows that there's a demand for them.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I knew about pre-ordering, but I didn't realize that those other websites actually, like, publishers look at them. Thank you for that information. That's like blowing my mind.
Of course. Like I'll see some authors who are like, add this to your Goodreads, pre-order if you can. But even if you just add it to your want to read shelf, like that alone can really help.
That's really good to know. So what is BookTalk like?
BookTalk, I feel like 95% of the time, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And because of the people that I'm very intentional about who I follow on BookTalk, on TikTok in general, because I want to make sure that I'm following people who are committed to the same things I'm committed to, but also might add different perspectives on things that I might not have thought about. And so a lot of times it's so cool. Like, okay, I've built this little community. And then there's that 5% where people want to like argue with you over your own reading experience. And I say that because reading is like, honestly, to me, one of the most subjective things you can do because you're approaching a book from your own experience. Yeah. And so people will sometimes come like, well, this isn't true, or why did you think that? And I'm like, I'm coming in with a very different background to this book than you might have. So I might have very different opinions or very different feelings about it. But those things I just ignore because I'm like, okay, I still feel the way I feel. And if I am putting something out on BookTalk, it's because I've thought about whether or not the conversation is productive or not. Because like on my page, one thing I will never do is I don't like to bash books. I don't really think there's a point in bashing books. You can bash authors who are problematic, but especially if they're BIPOC authored, because that's where my platform is, I would never want to give that energy to an author or a publisher or a book. And so when people come to me with those critiques, I'm like, but I know the work that I have done behind the scenes to think about, okay, if I do have a critique, is it productive? Or am I just not liking this book, so I'm just going to say I don't like this book? Because that's not necessarily productive. Because then I would just skip that. Like if I did a reading wrap up, I'd just be like, yeah, I read 7 books. One of these books I didn't like. We're going to put that off to the side. Here's the other ones that, I gave at least 3 stars.
Yeah, so you're so intentional about what you do. I like that because I like that you're really just trying to like uplift voices.
Yeah, because it's like if I get on my platform and I just start bashing books unnecessarily, then I feel like I'm not living in my purpose or in my truth or in like what it is I set out to do. Yeah, to me, it just feels a little unnecessary. And I don't necessarily fault people who do that. If you want to tell people how you don't like a book, cool. But over here, yeah, no.
Have students ever brought up your book?
Yes. They will join my lives. They will be under my comments. I remember one video, and I can't remember if it's the one where I had to like talk to that one guy who was like, why does race matter? But I remember one of my kids, and granted, I teach 7th grade and I previously taught 8th grade. So a lot of my kids now are like juniors in high school, which is insane. But like, what if there was in like a full-blown argument under my comment section with somebody who was like, and I hadn't seen it. This was all taking place like I was asleep. This child was still and is like defending my honor to this stranger. And I finally had to tell them the next day, I appreciate that. I love that you ride so hard for me. But girl, they don't matter. They don't matter. And it's really funny because when I first started, my first 3 months on BookTalk was during summer school season. And so it was really funny me trying to like record content, and my kids would like come into the room and they're like, oh, look at her. She recorded content. She thinks she's going to be something with you. And then now I am, and they can't say anything. So
I know.
But they're honestly like my biggest supporters, and it's amazing. Now, I do occasionally block some of them because I'm like my current students, if I see any of my current students pop up, blocked, because why? But of course, I can't catch everybody, because if your username is different than what your actual name is, then I have no idea. Yes.
Well, you're giving all your students that are listening to this episode some ideas now on what to do.
Students, if you are listening to this, you're getting blocked. It's a lot of fun. And I think it's really cool too, because I am an English teacher, and the way I talk about books online is the way I talk about books in my classroom. We read Othello in class, and we don't read like the No Fair Shake. Like, we read the original text. We're going to struggle through. We're going to break this down together. And it makes such a difference, because if I'm able to say, so we're going to start this book, it's going to be kind of difficult, but if you stick with it, this is like the Zeus Network, Real Housewives of Atlanta. Like, this is like, this is going to be the tea of the century. If you can stick through this, like, it makes it so cool. Like, we just finished reading The Hobbit, and we got to the section where Thorin is like kind of going off his rocker because he's so like wanting the jewel. I'm blanking on the name right now, that they go up to the castle for it. And one of my kids is like, oh my gosh, like, I think we need to, where's Gandalf at? Because he's doing too much. You can't mess with my man Bilbo. You better leave him alone. He is going in, and I love it, because I'm like, okay, we've talked so much about this book and in their language that they're like, they understand what's happening, and they're able to have real feelings about what's happening, and they're able to like interact with the text of like, where's the magic guy at? We need Gandalf in here. So
that's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah. So I when I say reading is my life, it encompasses both my paid job and my like online job.
That's so amazing. So what is it like to be able to do that, to create this content about something that you love?
It feels very cathartic. Like, it's what I wish I would have had when I was the age my kids were. Like, if I had known at 12 or 13 that these books would be out there one day, or that I would be in a space to so like, the thing I felt was so weird about me is the thing now that makes me who I am and that people actually rock with and they enjoy. I don't know. Like, I always think, I'm like, little Allissa must be so proud of like where she's at today. Like, I was literally talking to my older sister yesterday about some like deals and stuff that I have going on. And
ooh.
Yeah, under wraps though. I gotta.
Yes, that's okay. But still.
But
yes,
yeah, and she
awesome.
was like, who would have thought that all of this would have started just from a little girl who just liked to read? I was like, I know, right? Like, that's, to me, that's still so insane to me.
I have the chills. That's so wonderful. I'm so happy that you have some awesome things going for you, and that nomination, like that. Congratulations.
Thank you. It just feels so surreal. Like, I'm doing the work and people are seeing it. I'm somebody that somebody thinks of now when they think of diversity, equity, inclusion in the book space, the reading space, or I'm the person they think about when they think of an activist, because I'm like, I'm looking at the list and I'm like, I'm next to like Michael the librarian, who to me is like, that's the person I really think of.
Oh my God, I know. He liked one of my videos from a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, oh my God, how did you find my video?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm in the same category as him. I'm like, to me, that's like insane that people would put us in the same category. But then I'm like, but Allissa, you are doing the work, you know that
you are.
And so that's where that imposter syndrome, I have to kind of just like, no, you're doing it. So it's okay if you get recognized for doing it.
You are, and you're showcasing so many amazing books, and it's really exciting to be, like, for me to be exposed to this new world of authors and books, and to add more to my list.
Yes, that's my hope, is that everybody can find something like from my page, like either a new perspective about something or just something new that they would just love to read. because a lot of people, I feel like, who find my page, especially from the video talking about diversifying our bookshelves in 2024, it was a ton of people who were like, feel like I'm stuck, like, as a reader. Either I'm in a slump, I'm not seeing anything new, and I'm like, have you tried reading BIPOC? Because those are the stories. Like, I just finished reading 2 of Vaishnavi Patel's texts, the Kaikei and Goddess of the River. And those are Indian mythology retellings. And I'm like, these are books that have not existed previously in this format of, like, let's tell these male-dominated stories from a feminist perspective. And yeah, I would 10 out of 10 would recommend. Yeah, so it's like, okay, well, if you're stuck, I got you, because here are some books that you might not have ever heard about, but I guarantee you're gonna like them. So
yeah, and I love how you also give like comparisons, like, oh, if you like this sort of trope, then you'll love this. I think that's really helpful.
Yes, and the funny thing is, I'm not a big tropey person because I feel like people hear trope and they think romance, like, oh, enemies to lovers, or like one bed trope or things like that. And I'm like, I don't read romance. I'm like, what does that mean? But like, I love a good training arc. If I get to see the progression from beginning to end of where a main character has ended up, my favorite books are not the ones where people come in already an expert, like already immersed in this world. Like The Rage of Dragons, Evan Winter, you'll see Tao's progression of being just like a regular guy to him being the person everybody is afraid of, no matter caste, no matter strength, no matter height, weight, whatever. Like, he is that guy now. So those are like the kind of like tropes that like I'll freak out about.
Cool. I love anything really with time.
Oh yeah. So Principle of Moments was
yeah. I was like, I'm writing this down. I need to read this next.
Yeah, that's right up your alley.
Yeah. What would be different in your life if not for fandom?
Ooh.
Like, how has fandom changed your life?
I feel like I'd be a shell of a human being. I don't know. I feel like everybody has to have something they're like obsessed with, because if not, I don't know. Like, not to get, oh my gosh, I feel like this is about to be like so existential. I feel like if there's something that you're not like excited about, what are you doing on this plane? And I legit could not imagine my life without like books, or without the certain authors and types of books that I have in my life, because fantasy to me has always not actually been an escape. I think a lot of people hear fantasy and they're like, oh, you just don't want to be like here on Earth. Okay, yeah, but I think fantasy does a really good job of allowing you to see things from so many other perspectives, and seeing the way in which characters would react to certain situations. Like, even with, are we not finding the correlation between what's happening in this book and what's happening right now? It's okay when this person does it, but why is that not okay in real life? And I think that that's such an interesting conversation, because things that we tend to be okay with in books, we're not okay with in real life. Whereas for me, I'm like, well, let's talk about that. Let's think about like why that is. So yeah, it has so many implications like for my life and how I move, and even in me becoming an English teacher to give kids a teacher that I never had growing up. Like, I just wouldn't have a life. Yeah,
books and fantasy and all of that, it really gives meaning to us. And it also lets us like use our imagination, which is not a bad thing.
No, I don't know, maybe with our world becoming so much more homogenous, it kind of feels like people are very one way. And if you are not this one way, then it's something wrong with you fundamentally. And that's the fun thing with reading fantasy and sci-fi, is that like the world can look so many different ways. And I get to read about characters who are having direct impacts on their world and on their community, but in like a cool and magical way.
Yeah, who doesn't like magic?
Right, I mean, like I'm saying. So
yeah. What does being a nerd mean to you?
Being a nerd to me it's just like being unapologetic in what you like. Not feeling like you have to hide something about yourself. Like the episode of SpongeBob where they're like eating like it makes their breath stink, and then they get up on the pineapple and they're like, I'm ugly and I'm proud. And I'm like, that's how I feel sometimes. Like, I'm a nerd and I'm proud. I like to read and I'm proud. If you like that thing, let people know that you like that thing, because I didn't know that there are a lot of people who also really like that thing. And you just never know where your community will come from unless you say the things that you're into.
Love that.
You know what's funny? I love sci-fi shows and movies more than I love fantasy like shows and movies.
Interesting. So books, you like fantasy, but like movies and TV, you like sci-fi?
It has to be sci-fi. And I feel like most times when you have a fantasy show, it's not done well. Like, either they've tried to do a book to show adaptation that flops, and it's okay. Like Beautiful Creatures, which I loved growing up, and then the movie came out and it was like y'all sure the writer was in the room with y'all? Because I don't know if that's correct. Or it just comes across like there's something about it that they just can't grasp fully. And maybe it's because as a book and as a reader, you develop your own kind of like world around the world that's being built that doesn't translate always to real life. But sci-fi shows, I will eat up a sci-fi show. Like I'm currently watching, or just finished The Constellation on Apple TV, just finished.
Oh, is that good?
Oh my God.
Adding it to my never-ending list.
I need to watch it again because I feel like I didn't fully understand what I should be understanding. The Foundation on Apple TV, really good. I'm watching The 3-Body Problem on Netflix right now. Like anything that's, oh my gosh, sci-fi movies, Martian or Life or, what's the really long, Interstellar. If the movie takes place in space, I'm gonna eat it up.
I was gonna say, you love space.
I love space so much.
So are you a Doctor Who fan?
You know what? When Doctor Who was big, my family didn't have HBO. So like, I never got as into it for real. And now as an adult, it feels really daunting to jump into the world of Doctor Who for some reason. Which
I could see that.
I might try. But to me, it's on the same plane of like Star Wars. Like I love space, but I don't watch Star Wars just because I feel like that fandom's a little scary. I don't know. I feel like people are very particular about the order you watch stuff and like the knowledge you should have. And I'm like, I know that there's like a Millennium Falcon, right? Or something. Like, and that might be Star Trek. I don't know. Not Star Wars. But yeah, sci-fi shows right now have had me in like a chokehold.
Have you seen Severance?
Oh my gosh. I need season 2 yesterday.
Oh my God, me too.
I was watching it with some friends and they were like, oh, this is too slow. Because it's very much like a slow show, you know, but that's what makes it good because when the pieces, and those are my favorite types of books too, which makes sense. The ones that you're getting very few details at a time because when you get to where they all culminate together, then it's that like just happened like feeling, you know, that is so amazing to me.
Oh, I remember that finale. I'm not going to spoil it, but I think I jumped out of bed because I was watching on my computer and I was just like, oh my God.
I know it.
Yeah, so
I can picture the exact scene you're talking about.
Yep.
But yeah,
I had the chills.
Oh my gosh. And that's how I felt when I read the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. If you like a show like Severance, and I know we're about to jump into recommendations, but I feel like the 5th season or the Broken Earth trilogy is such a good trilogy because N.K. Jemisin is not afraid to let a reader struggle. Like she is not afraid for you to sit there. Like the first 200 pages of the 5th season was like, what in the hell am I reading? Like I'm processing words, but I cannot yet figure out what the meaning of this is. And I think she does such a good job of like giving you just enough so that you can stick with it, but then not too much that you feel like you figured out what's happening. And by the time you get to that 3rd book, it is the most beautiful story. I truly think that that's like one of the most beautiful stories I have ever read. And I say that with my whole chest. Like,
wow. Well, I mean, if you're saying it, I would like it if I like Severance, then I'm adding it to my list.
If you are not afraid of doing some work to get to the most beautiful conclusion ever, yeah, that's on a whole nother level.
All right.
It's good. It's really good.
Okay. Well, I guess so many. I feel like, for our geeky recommendations, it should just be like, go check out your TikTok so you could get a list of a million amazing books to read. But yeah, so I like to share geeky recommendations to help people embrace their nerdiness. And for today, I'm thinking like, you know what? Start that book talk. If you want to do it, if you want to find a community of people who like books, start it and see what happens.
Closed mouths don't get fed. If you never do it, you'll never know what's going to come your way. Like last year, I couldn't have imagined. I was like, I'm just on here to talk about books. Even if nobody sees me and I'm just in an echo chamber of myself, then at least I'm talking about something that I like.
Yeah.
And then now here, almost a year later, just crazy to think about that. It's going to be a year next month. It's like, oh, you stayed consistent with this thing. You stayed consistent with what you want to talk about. And people found you. And I think that that's like the coolest thing ever.
I'm going to take those words to heart when I'm thinking about this podcast, because sometimes I'm like, is anybody even like interested or listening? But it's like, you just got to keep doing it.
Because that's the thing. If you don't stay consistent with something, you'll never see the results that you want to see. There were times where I was like, nobody's watching my stuff. Like I would get frustrated. Like I would post a video, it would get like 50 views, delete. Like, I would get so frustrated with it because it felt like I'm putting in all this work. Why is nothing happening? But then it's like, you didn't start this though for the views or for the, you just started this just to talk. And so if that's what you want to do, then that's what you do. And then eventually, if you keep doing it, you do it well enough and you grow and learn how I can use this platform to better, like mold or put into a better format of what I want to say. If I can figure out the tips and the tools to do that, then people are going to come. And they can. And now here we are.
Amazing advice. What recommendation do you have to help people embrace their nerdiness?
Read Black authored books, but like to embrace your nerdiness, just be unapologetic with it. If there's something that you like and it truly brings you joy, there's too much happening in the world for us to not do things that bring us joy. There's so much happening in the world, so much happening in our lives that to me, it almost seems counterproductive to do things that are not what I like to do or be afraid to talk about things that I like to do. And especially like from the mindset of a teacher, like when I talk to my kids about stuff because I'm fairly young and my kids I'm only like 9 years older than a lot of my kids, 10 years older than a lot of my kids. So there's a lot of overlap. And I'm like, I never know what connection I can make with my kids unless I voice it. Like, oh, here's something that I think is really cool. And then it opens up for my kids to say, wait, I think that thing is really cool too. I've never heard anybody say that before. Being able to see the impact it has on 12-year-olds, I'm like, oh, cool. Now this might be a kid who can grow up fully living in what it is that they like because they know somebody like heard it and didn't judge them for it.
Oh, I love that. Just be you and don't feel like you have to hide yourself.
Man, and that's the thing. There's like psychology brain, there's a spotlight effect. So we think that everybody is judging us for the things that we do that might be a bit weird or quirky or nerdy. And really, they're really not. And if they are, then they need to do something nerdy in their own lives. Because that means that they don't have enough going on in their own lives. Because why are they so worried about you?
Yeah, people are way more consumed with themselves than with you.
Oh, for
That's just how.
Sure. There have been many a times where people are like, oh, I felt like X, Y, and Z was happening. And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking about the next 5 things I need to do. I wasn't really worried about that. And then I'm like, oh, so you just didn't notice that this happened? I'm like, no. So everybody operates like that for the most part. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. I am so appreciative that you're here and you're talking about your story and you were here to nerd out. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I feel like, I don't know. I've never done an interview or anything like that or done like a talk like this. So this has been really fun. I'm like, I don't know. This is cool.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so happy I get to be your first podcast. Yeah. Where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram and TikTok, all at shebereadinthembooks. And that's reading without the G, which is actually funny because when I started my page, sorry to go on a tangent, but
I love tangents.
People were like, anytime I voice my name to this day to like real life people who are like, oh, you talk about books, what's your name? And I'm like, she be reading them books. And they're like, because obviously it doesn't sound like the most what you would consider grammatically correct. And I'm like, but that's very intentional because I'm a young Black girl from the city in my state. And that's the way I talk. And I can be both well educated with a master's degree in teaching and love books. And I can still talk the way that I want to talk. And so when I was coming up with names like, okay, what would define me? That was like a very intentional thing of like, she reads, she is well read, but she's also a girl from the city.
Yeah. I love that everything you do is so intentional.
I try.
You're so thoughtful. Yeah.
I try. Because if I'm not intentional, I start saying and doing stuff that is like, I'm going to regret it later and I'm going to spiral about it.
So. You know, that's why I love that this podcast is not live.
Yes.
And I can edit out anything that I'm like, okay, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or re-record if I need to.
Yes, because oh my gosh, I will ruminate so bad it's not even funny. Like I'm talking about like the edge of the bed, like why did I say that in 2014? Like, so I try to be very like, especially when it comes to this space of like, what is it that I want people to get? And I think that just started too with the name of She Reads, but she's also going to talk about it a certain way. And I think that's really cool because when I'm doing book reviews and I'm talking about books, people are like, I have never heard books described like this. And I'm like, yeah, that's just the way I talk. Like, when I read books, I don't read it like she went up to him and she held the knife to his throat. I'm like, oh, she walked up to you and she's about to come at you, buddy. You better like, I'm Like, that's the way I interact with books. And I feel like that allows other people to interact with books in not such a like straight-laced way.
I love that. And I think that's why you took off, because people love that too.
Yeah. So she be reading them books on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah. And I will share the links to that in the show notes. Do you have anything else that you want to share or promote?
I can plug. Okay.
Oh, yes, please. I want you to promote anything you want.
So by the time this comes out, this probably would have already happened, but that's okay because people can go back and watch it on my page. But I am doing my first author interview ever, which is exciting. And I'm a little nervous about it, but it's okay. But it is with Terry J. Benton Walker, the author of Blood Debts. The second book in the series, Blood Justice, gets released April 23rd. And so we're going to be having one conversation that's kind of like a normal, kind of like author interview situation. But then the second one is going to be like, let's talk about the tea that happens in the second book. Like, let's go in, because the stuff that happens in that second book had me throwing the book across the room. By the time this comes out, it'll probably already be like up on my page and up on Terry's page as well. But people can go check that out.
Yeah, awesome. Yes, everybody go check that out. Support Allissa because she's amazing. And I'm sure if we want anybody to interview authors, we want it to be her.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much again for being here. This was so much fun. And I also think a really important conversation. And just thank you for saying yes to being on my show.
Of course. Thank you for having me. When you reached out, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so cool.
I was like, oh my gosh, when you responded.
We were both just, oh my goshing together.
Yeah. All right, everybody, if you could please rate and review That Nerd Thing on whatever podcast platform you're listening to the show on, that would really mean so much to me. Again, the numbers really do matter. So those ratings and those 5-star reviews really do help. And if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and like this video. You can get in touch with me via email at thatnerdthingpod@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at thatnerdthingpod. And remember to please share the show with your nerdy friends, and I will see you next time. Bye.